Welcome to Unit 6, Assessment and Error Correction. Readings that will help you with this unit are Chapter 12, Correcting Errors, Chapter 17, Testing, and a formative and summative assessment reading that you will find on the website. So, what are we going to talk about? Well, what is assessment? What are the different types of assessment? What kind of testing do we do? And how do we correct errors? That's a big one. Why do we use the word assessment? Well, one reason is that when we hear this word, we start to feel a little like this guy. And then all we can think is test, 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 test. It's too much. Tests are very stressful. So we use the word assessment. But also, assessment is a bigger idea than a test. When we assess something, we're really just gathering information about our students' learning. And that information is things like skills they have gained. What could they not do before, but they can now? Skills that need some improvement. What did you teach that they didn't learn? And was it maybe because of some of your teaching practices that didn't really work? And student study habits. Are some of your students studying really well and some not so much? Is there something you can do to help them study better? And then, what do you review before a final exam or at the end of a quarter or semester? Overall assessment is a really good way to get that information. There are two main types of assessment. The first is summative assessment. Now, this is what we usually think of when we think of tests and quizzes. But the thing is, a summative assessment doesn't have to be a test or a quiz. You can assess your students' learning through things like presentations. Students have done research, they've written, they've spoken, and then they present on a topic. That way, you understand they've been reading, they've been writing, they've been listening, and they've been speaking. That is a summative assessment. Another good way to summatively assess your students is through a final paper, especially if you're teaching an advanced writing class. This way, your students have been reading and writing. You've integrated those skills. State and national exams are a summative assessment, but they're not summative assessments for your class unless you're doing test prep. Portfolios are a really good way to summatively assess your students, even at the beginning level. And a portfolio, your students gather all of the major work they've done throughout the quarter or semester in one. Papers, presentations, paragraphs, tests and quizzes, worksheets they did really well. That way you can see and they can see what they've done over the quarter, how they started, and now how they're finishing. These are only some examples of final products, but I'm sure you can creatively come up with more.